Hi and welcome back to MDriven. So in this session I have prepared a presentation on something brand new. It's something that we have had before but has been improved a lot. So stay tuned. It's about AccessGroups and a new thing we call InterestGroups and a improved ViewModel-Enable function. So AccessGroups, they were introduced a long time ago, and there's some articles on the wiki describing their details and also videos, etc., to get a read up on what they actually are there for. But the short summation is that they control, it's a shorthand for defining the expressions that would give or deny access, and then you can tie those access groups to actions that you have in the application, and you can separate the expressions that control access from other expressions that may control enable state, like if are you okay to, would it be okay to invoice this particular item or not. Well, there might be business reasons that the invoice isn't in the ready state yet, and there may be access reasons that you are not educated enough in the system to, or have the access rights to actually perform the invoicing. So those are two completely different business rules that both end up in the decision that you should not be able to click a button. And when it comes to access groups, we can also use a visible expression to completely hide something from view. Maybe there's sensitive functions, or we don't want to confuse you with the options that you can't reach anyway. So then we can hide them. So I've prepared an example for this, and this example is also available on GitHub on the Support MDriven site. It's over here, so you can just download that if that would be of interest to you to follow along. But basically I'm gonna show how this would work with this simple model. Just two classes, class 1 and 2, and some attributes on those. And from there I just pressed auto forms to have something to show. And the main form that I'm going to use for demoing this looks like this. It's based on the auto form for class 1, so it shows the attributes. But then I've put in a lot of buttons and actions to get the points with access group across. So let's see how this looks if we run it. So making sure that my turnkey local server is running, and I'm pasting in the address to that, and I'll go to the class 1 seeker to bring up one of these objects that I've created, and I'm going to show that form that I have over here. Now we can see that some fields are not accessible, and some are, and some buttons are accessible and some are not. They are not enabled. I'm going to open yet another form here and go to the singleton, which I'm going to bring up. This has two attributes. Let's look at that here. So it's a singleton and it's marked as such. here, so there's only one instance, and it only has 2 attributes. So this is a very simplified model that probably when you follow the normal login pattern with sys singleton pointing out the current user, you will have these settings if someone is interested in something or has allowed access to something as properties on the user itself, or some subclass to, or connect associated class to the user. But for this simple example, I just have these 2 booleans and on this singleton class. So let's bring that up here. So now we can see that we have this form controlling. Yeah, so now I've changed the settings when this is gonna time out, so it's only 1 minute, but let's see. So I'm gonna push the allow access, and also, yeah, I'm gonna save that, but you could also see that immediately that these all turned on. They are now enabled. So and why would this have any effect? Well, it's the read-only, or the ViewEnable expression that is a new thing, or actually it has been there before, but what's new about it is that it allows you to much better control what should be enabled or not. Prior to this release, they allowed okay, so I'm going to press cancel on that next time. So the allowed access, if I uncheck that, you see that these all get locked, and that's because we have access groups defined in this view here. So this is the allow access group. This is its name, and this is the ViewEnable expression. So enable of view model edit controls. And as we can see, that's only the singleton, OCL singleton allowed access. That's the only thing it looks at. So very simple. And of course, again, when you do this in your own system, you will probably follow to a specific user, because different users have different access rights. Nothing strange about that. And what's new about this ViewEnable expression that wasn't there from before? As like before, we attach the allow access group to the view model itself by going in here and saying that allow access should be attached, tagged to this outer form class 1. Having done so, this will now control all the enable, or rather read-only expressions on all these widgets and buttons, and also on all the view model actions. This was definitely not there before, only the view items. But the problem before was that it knocked out all the view items if it turned out that the value of allow access was false, then everything would have been locked. But as we can see running the application now, just some of the things become locked. I'm going to turn off allow access, and just some of the things become locked. And what's the why is that? We can also see that it turns on disabling some of the actions, but not all of the actions. And this is the really cool part about this new feature, because if we were to inspect this field and this column that has not been affected by the read-only, let's see what it does. And that actually affects only a variable, and a variable, yeah, it's safe for anyone to use. That won't change any persistent data. So, and that's actually a good thing, because think of this as a seeker. In fact, let's do it on the seeker form as well. So the form class 1 seeker, as we can see here, we don't want to knock out the filter field or the search button. Let's see what happens if we attach this to this view model. Should have the access group of allow access. Okay, and I'm going to save that, and heading back to here, let's see if I can come to the seeker, and that's good. I can still use the seeker. But what if the seeker had something that was yes, I was gone for a minute there because I saw a bug. This new class action was actually still enabled, even though allowed access is not checked. So why would that be a problem? Well, new class actually creates something persistent, so if we turn this on, allow class, we can press new class and create a new object, and that would need a save, etc. So let's save that and head back here. If we search, we'll have a new class here, a new object there. But the neat thing is that if we turn off access, the user, and save that, the user can't actually access this any longer, because that is deemed sort of dangerous. The user can, however, still enter data in the search filter and also press the search button, and that's because these two are only affecting a non-persistent state, like this is setting a variable and this is executing the search function. So that is deemed okay. And for this field only sets a variable, and this button only acts on that variable, and it signs an A apparently. And this button is also enabled, even though we have allow access to false. And why is that? Because that only navigates, doesn't do any data manipulations. This button is connected to the variable action, so this action. So this action is enabled, also adds an A. This button also adds an A. This is actually a list of all the view model actions that can be extracted easily nowadays with the self VM list actions, and that can check the enable state. So all of these also adhere to the new functionality of the ViewModel-Enable expression. As we can see here, this one is false, this one is true, and this one is false, just as they are over here. And if I were to go here and say allow access, these will turn on, and all these buttons will turn on, and these will also turn on. So now I can do some real change in this button that sets this field, and then the state is that requires save is lit up. And this is a button that changes an association, so same thing there. It doesn't show up on screen, but if I had to save, it would show up there. And save and continue, and I think, yeah, they end up in this view here. So this is almost magical that we only can change one attribute and deduce which of the widgets on any screen that should be enabled or disabled. And that's what I refer to in this article when I say that before it was, yes, it works and locks or opens everything, but what we want it to do is, yes, it can read my mind and let the user do benign things, but stop the user from doing anything that risks permanently change data. So that's the added benefit, the added value of this functionality. Good. That was the very important. Good. Now to the second part of this presentation. The interest group. The clutter reducer, I've called that. So what differs an interest group from an access group? The interest group is just a softer sibling to the access group. The access group is used to control if access is granted, as we have seen, and that overrides everything else when it comes to interest groups. But the interest group is evaluated after access groups and control if we should bother to show the tagged action to the user or not. So what this means is that we can define an access group as being an interest group, and if we do so, we can enter a visible expression. So it's only the visible expression that are important when we have said that this is an interest group. If it were an access group, we have all these expressions. If the action should be enabled, if the action should be visible at all, what should happen with the access groups when it's attached to a form, and that's the smart logic that I've just gone through. But interest groups only checks if it should be visible or not. So why is it called interest group? It has to do with the interest of the user. So let's see this with an example. I'm going to use the same example that we had. I'm going to check the interest group checkbox here, and this is the actual value that let's see, it has an attribute on the singleton, and this one only directly checks that attribute straight off. So when I change it here, it's changed here, and then all of a sudden these actions show up. Low interest action. So I'm going to turn it off again, and these should disappear. And I'm going to turn it on, and they will reappear. So this the interest groups are there for decluttering the left side menu, and you will see that that also adheres to the functions to get the left menu actions. So when I unclick it, this will reduce, and when I click it, this will show up. So what's the main purpose of these decluttering, or why would I want to remove some actions from the left side? As I've described here, it could be that you have different departments. A particular user may be interested in both. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, and the user from the sales department may not be interested in actions leading to views having functionality specific to the supply department, or vice versa. So what that alludes to is that we have seen in real life scenarios where systems are being built that views that are used for multiple function, like maybe a seeker, have a lot of actions over here, but the actual user that uses this view at this point is only interested in part of those actions. So defining interest groups, and you can do this, you can cut this any way you want, but I suggest that you think of it as a function of the user. So if the user is a supply department member, that's sort of a function, then you probably have actions that are more common for supply department persons to access and maybe shouldn't be accessed at all by anyone else. And of course, since this is interest groups and not access groups, you can also allow for the user to influence these values yourself. Am I really interested in stuff that they do at supply? Yes, no. So then you would add a few checkboxes for your user to fill in himself. And the nice thing about interest groups are that they are evaluated after the access groups. So you can see that some of the low interest actions here are actually not enabled, even though I'm interested, because there's an access group and I don't allow access. So if I turn this on, I would see that this will highlight, and now I can also use the low interest action. And if I'm not interested, they will disappear. So that is several good improvements that we have made to the access groups that make them more to the point when building large system for multiple functions. Thank you very much for listening, and of course this article is available on the wiki, and there are all the links here to the example, etc. So if you want to play with it. Thank you.